I attended the film festival in the Navajo Nation in Window Rock in November. I did a little performance there. And while I was there, I connected with so many environmental justice activists dealing with mining and milling, the 80 years of all of that contamination, long-term waste exposure, et cetera, water being poisoned, wells poisoned, disease, illness. Anyway, so I connected with many activists there and learned about this new project, which is in this article here. It's Navajo uranium waste could be a boon to U.S. energy needs. And what that was this company is called DISA, and they do this technology called HIPSA, which is high pressure ablation, slurry ablation. You can see in the right-hand corner there. And so essentially what they do is they go to an abandoned mine site, they collect all the, rocks and waste that are left there, and they put it into a machine that just uses water, high pressure water. It breaks all the waste down into particles, and the uranium that's in the dirt and the rocks and the waste that was left behind in thousands of abandoned mines from the Cold War and from the first nuclear boom. You can see in the picture with the map there, all those red dots in the middle of the slide, those are abandoned uranium mines from the Cold War and the nuclear boom. And not just from the Cold War for weapons, they're also from the first phase of the nuclear power boom that happened. So anyway, they go to the site, they crush it all up. The uranium that's left in the dirt, that's just left there on the rocks, accumulates, gets concentrated, and they can extract it out. Then what's left behind is what's still radioactive dirt. It's not as radioactive. They've removed a lot of the uranium. However, the studies that they didn't prove that it didn't meet the level of what's considered like background radiation. So it's interesting, even though the study they did, which is shown in the upper right-hand corner there, that was done by Tetra Tech, a company that was convicted of falsifying data on reports in the past, they found that it did not meet the standards of the Navajo Nation for background radiation, but the NRC approved their license anyway and gave them a license for cleanup. Okay, and so what astounded me, I've read EISs and EAs doing nuclear work for weapons and also for SpaceX. I've read a lot of these reports. They're typically hundreds and hundreds of pages long. They refer to hundreds and hundreds and thousands of other pages, so they're very complicated and long. This was such a short EA. It was just an environmental assessment, the weaker form of the environmental review than a full EIS. And what was astounding was that, okay, you can see in the slide that they put out the EA in August. They had a 30-day public comment period. And then at the end of September, they released their finding of no significant impact, or a FONSI. That's the fastest turnaround I have ever seen in my many years of analyzing environmental review. So this blew my mind. I'm like, what the hell is happening that they can turn around a review so fast? And then they issued the license that same year. And it's a license that applies to 14 states. And you can see why they want 14 states, because look where all the abandoned uranium mines are. So anyway, they got the license as a form of cleanup, but then after they got the license, they reapplied to the NRC to change the mine waste into equivalent feed. Now, equivalent feed is something that actually can be sent to the mill in order to then go as yellow cake and get enriched to sell on the market for nuclear fuel. So they switched it. So rather than applying for extraction in order to sell it to the mill in order to make fuel, they try to attach it as like an amendment after the fact. So I've reported on this, and you can read about it if you go to Counterpunch and look at my articles. And this is still in the process of trying to be clear. So the company really screwed up. And so what they've done now, instead of trying to do to test it further on the Navajo Nation. They're just moved to Colorado to the Marianne mine on BLM land, and they're applying for a permit to be able to test it there. So mind you, not mind you, but mind you, the DISA only tested like a couple kilograms of waste for 5 minutes. That's all they've done, and they got their license. So now the next thing is to take it to the next level. So the whole point of the story, so you can still pay attention to this because it's really interesting. And I think the long-term goal for this is they'll couple the DISA HIPSA extraction on the mine sites, so that first they'll extract with traditional means. Then the waste that's produced, they'll suck out every single last drop of uranium they can by using HIPSA. So it was always intended for extraction, not cleanup, but that's the ruse.